A tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up. A tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these
we're dealing with right now with Donald Trump.
Titans
of industry.
Are not
Crazy.
Speaking up.
They're not speaking up. What are we going to do?
A tyrant.
What are we going to do?
We used to compare the strength of our democracy.
This is crazy. What's up, everyone? How's it going? Well, we have old knee pads pulled out and coming out here calling. Now she's calling Donald Trump a communist. Wait, can they make up their mind? He's a communist. He's not a fascist. He's a communist. That's strange. Hey, Jay Schwartz, what's up? Your intro graphics and music are fantastic. Well, I've been working on it. I was hoping to make it better. Let's see who's here. SB Farmer, what's up, buddy? Yeah, everybody hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you know when I'm going to go live. Or Doxy Mom, how you doing tonight? Hey, Lucky Luciano, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Unfortunately, Meyer Lansky did not get a gifted membership last night, but maybe tonight he will. And you're welcome for the gift. Thank Mr. Brian Oldenkamp. None of your business. What's up? How you doing? Daniel Gagax, what's up? Colorado Mountain Girl, how you doing? I am Bob. What's up? Yes, I did say hello to you, Mr. Schwartz, but yes, that's great. What the F? What's up? Jody, what's up? Yes, Plussy tickled. That's good, man. Hit that thumbs up. Give us a little love for the algorithm. What's up? Hey, what's up? He's dead, Jim. What's up? How's it doing, peeps? 6 Ecto Victor. What's up, man? Jay Leave God, how you doing? Julio Scissors, what's up? Steve Hilliard, how you doing? Hey, Kelly, how you doing? Oh, you're so good to be able to spend the time. You know it's going to be a great show. Well, I hope so. I got some stuff planned. I got a good show planned. I got it all laid out. I've got about 7 hours worth of stuff. I don't know if we'll get to it all. Probably not. We haven't been getting to it all lately, but we'll see. As usual, there is a goal tonight. The show's going to go about 2.5 hours. If you check the goal, it says it's about what does it say? We have about 2.5 hours to go on the goal. And well, right now 2:20 go on the goal. If we hit the goal, we'll add another hour, and then for every $75 afterwards, we will add another hour. Across all platforms, memberships, gifted memberships, Rumble Rants, PayPal, Cash App, locals, all the different stuff. Anyway, and then we also have a Bellavision that will get activated at any individual donation of 25 or more, which that could be, like 5 gifted memberships would be an automatic Bellavision or anything like that. So yeah, we're gonna get going, and we're gonna come down to here. So yeah, so there's that. And then my first story of the evening is this thing that I wanted to talk about. It's been in the news. So let's do this. Boom, like this. Do I look too big here? Like this? Is my head too big? Maybe I need to make this smaller. Hold on. Make myself smaller. My head's too big. You can see that lump on my head. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's better, right? Right there. Maybe there. That's better right there. I like that. There. Maybe, I don't know. That's good. Whatever. What's up, Catherine K? How you doing? Pat Hacker? How you doing, ma'am? And what's up, Derek? How are we doing tonight? So, first story of the evening will be that it's about this whole thing with Tom Homan, where the FBI tried to entrap him, basically come and try to set him up, in the middle of an election, the FBI went and tried to entrap one of Trump's biggest advisors. Kind of reminiscent of what happened in 2016, wasn't it? When they tried screwing around with a bunch of Trump's advisors and stuff. They tried to do it again, tried to offer him $50K to do something. He's like, get away from me, you scums, or whatever, and never took the money. And so they're like, oh, there was this thing, there's an investigation. They offered him $50,000 as a bribe. Did he take it? No. So, so it's very reminiscent of what they did in 2016 here. So the White House should not comment on the details of any corrupted investigation into Tom Homan. Instead, the White House should note that at the same time the Biden, Garland, Monaco DOJ was rounding up 1,600 plus Americans for protesting the 2020 election, concocting both the J6 and documents criminal indictments against the president and some of his closest advisors, violating attorney-client and executive privilege between the former president and his attorneys and White House aides, and throwing Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro in jail on laughable contempt charges. The same DOJ used precious FBI resources not to chase down real criminals, but to entrap a longtime Trump advisor and expected incoming administrative official if Trump won. Then Biden DOJ used a sham investigation to warn Trump that Homan was compromised. Wow, exactly like they did with Mike Flynn, remember? They try to say Flynn is compromised. Oh. Yeah, Tom Homan is more popular than Charlie Kirk. In this chat, I'm sure he is. Oh, Tim Lorson, what's up, buddy? Nice to see you. That's good. I look good there. Okay. Yeah, Flynn 2.0. Mm-hmm. The predicate for yet another political investigation by the Biden DOJ into a Trump advisor had two purposes. One, if Trump lost, which in September 2024, every Democrat thought that would be the outcome, to pursue criminal charges against Tom Homan, or two, to serve as a basis to prevent his appointment if in the event that Trump won. Yeah, everyone's shocked that they would do this, right? Shocked. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I ain't been showing any video. Wolf Blitzer actually asked a good question for once. He asked, what happened to the $50,000 that Homan took? Okay. The associate dean for George Washington University says you can't have a conspiracy charge if all the other co-conspirators are feds. Also, where is the video? I have a feeling it isn't being shown for a reason. If you think it's being dropped out of nowhere after months, right after Tom Homan crushed it in the Maher interview hours before, you're mistaken. Oh, you subbed to Pat Dixon on my recommendation. You love it. He does a lot of good stuff, man. If you like crime reporting, he does this thing called New York. That's how I found him, was New York City Crime Report, which is basically about New York City. And he also used to do this thing called the NNFL with a guy named Talib Starks, where they would cover murder, mayhem, and misery. The three M's of the Feral Ball League in America, which they have teams like the Chicago Savages and the Cincinnati Bullet Sprayers or something like that, and then the what is it? What I'm trying to think of the other the Philadelphia I don't know, Philadelphia. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I don't remember. But it's good stuff. So yeah, he's good. He's a good guy. Plus, he's a good friend, actually. Yeah. So let's see here. So here, let's listen. Let's listen to this.
No longer pursuing this investigation under President Trump. So let's discuss with Jessica Tillitman, Assistant Dean and Professor of Law at the George Washington University, also my former
All right,
professor.
what the hell is going on here?
DOJ,
My
as I
audio
mentioned,
is not
closed
boosting.
the case over doubts, reportedly that it could prove that Homan had agreed to a specific act in exchange for the cash, and because he was not in a government position at the time. Do those seem like valid reasons to not prosecute?
Yes. So when you look at this particular matter, and first of all, thank you for having me. It's nice to see you. When you look at this particular matter, there's a legal, ethical, and also
why is the
political
sound
dimension to
not
it.
going up?
From the
What the hell
legal
is going on?
perspective, it's not as straightforward as it seems. The key issue, to me at least, is his status. The fact that at the time of the alleged payment, he was not a public official. He was not, nor was he selected to be a public official. The public bribery statute at 18 USC 201 requires that person to be one or the other, public official or selected to be a public official. Because he was neither, that was missing an essential element of the crime.
What about if you're not a public official and you accept the cash, but then you become a public official like he is now?
So I think the consideration there is why they potentially were waiting, right? So why, when you have potential video evidence of a public official or someone who's soon to be a public official accepting $50,000 in cash and promising to steer contracts to that person, do you not bring charges? The reason I believe they probably sat on it for a little bit is they were waiting to see what would happen. Would he take steps in furtherance of that, maybe recommitting to make that promise, maybe actually taking some sort of official action or pressuring a subordinate or a contracting officer to award those contracts? I think they were watching to see what happened next because of that status issue.
And the White House has said that that has not happened. But for prosecutors, tell us more about the legal definition of bribery and how it could be hard to prove.
Well, I think when we're talking about the legal definition, it can depend on the statute. So there are a variety of statutes that actually go after bribery, whether it's on a services fraud. Sometimes they use something called the Hobbs Act. In this case, we're talking about 18 USC 201. All right, so this is the centerpiece federal bribery statute. And what it prohibits is a public official or someone selected to be a public official. And remember, he wasn't named at the time yet at this position, to promise to take an official act in exchange for a thing of value. And $50,000 is pretty much a clear thing of value in this instance.
I think one of the questions would be too, did he report this on for his taxes, right? Because if it happened last year, and the White House statement was right there on the screen. I'm just wondering, the fact that these were federal agents that were involved in this, it wasn't like it was between Tom Homan and another private citizen or a government official. It was federal agents. Does that change the dynamic at all or the considerations?
It does. So from the bribery perspective of that statute, that's going to have separate elements. But here there potentially could have been an idea of charging conspiracy to commit bribery. But you can't have a conspiracy charge if all of the other co-conspirators are federal agents because they don't have the requisite intent to act in furtherance of this bribe. So again, that's going to complicate things from a conspiracy standpoint, but not necessarily from a bribery standpoint had he met the definition of a public official.
All right,
Quick
just
question I have. Do we know what happened to the $50,000 in cash? Did he keep it? Did it go back to the FBI agents? What happened to the $50,000?
Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Just what I know is that there was
Yeah,
a
there was-
bag of cash.
he never
and it's
took the
apparently
money.
Caught on video, which is pretty damning if true.
all
All
right.
right, we'll see what happens.
That's why I was wondering if it was reported, if he kept it.
Yeah, no, he didn't keep it. They said, "Here's a bag of cash." He goes, "What the hell's this?" and gave it back to him. Get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? So, like, oh yeah, but we gave him a bag of cash. You handed him a bag of cash. He said, "What is this?" and gave it back. So, yeah, where's the 50K? Look at the smirk on her face. Like, oh, it's a big deal. Yeah, we just walk up and hand somebody 50 cash, and then we arrest them. Hey, what's going on? What's up? Yeah. So, anyway, so that's that. That's what's going on with this case. This is this crazy shit. So this is this. So we go back here and then. Yeah. It says I said this when the news hit. Experience Whitmer, based on experience covering the Whitmer kidnapping. If the Biden DOJ actually considered a conspiracy charge, that requires more than one person. So who was the other perp? The unknown alleged target, who I suspect was an FBI informant, the 3 undercover agents. A government asset cannot be part of a conspiracy unless he went outside the bounds of the agreement with the FBI, which happened in Whitmer to burn a longtime informant. That does not appear to be the case here. So, yeah, where's the video? There's a discrepancy in reporting as to how the alleged meetup was recorded. MSNBC says cameras, but New York Times says audio. Like, it's just to be clear, there's an undercover FBI video of Tom Homan taking 50,000 per this bombshell report by Delaney and MSNBC. Yeah. He was investigated for accepting 50,000 from an, just to be clear, show us the video. That's right. So here's this story. Tom Homan was investigating for accepting 50,000 from undercover FBI agents. Trump's DOJ shut it down. Actually, it was shut down before Trump came into office. The FBI and justice officials closed the investigation, which the Department of Justice appointee had called Deep State Probe in early 2025. In an undercover operation last year, the FBI recorded Tom Homan, now the border czar, accepting 50,000 in cash after indicating he could help the agents who were posing as business executives win government contracts in a second Trump administration. We want bank robbers showing the 50K. I want to see, like, what did they do? Just 2 guys walked up to him and said, "Here's 50K. Can you help us get it?" I want to know what the hell's going on here. The FBI and Justice Department planned to wait and see whether Homan would deliver on his alleged promise once he became the nation's top immigration official, but the case indefinitely stalled soon after Trump became president again, according to 6 sources. What? This doesn't make any sense. This seems like a fishing expedition. This seems like a straight up entrapment, like they tried to entrap him. After FBI Director Kash Patel requested a status update, 2 of the people said. It's unclear what reasons FBI officials gave for shutting down the investigation, maybe because there wasn't a crime, but the Department of Justice appointee called the case a deep state probe, and no further investigative steps were taken. A federal investigation was launched in Western Texas in the summer of 2024 after a subject in a separate investigation claimed Homan was soliciting payments in exchange for awarding contracts to Trump win the presidential election, according to an internal Justice Department summary. So who's this person? Did that person say he paid him? Because why would 2 FBI agents walk up and offer money then? Homan, who served as acting director of Immigration and Customs early in Trump's first term, openly claimed during the 2024 campaign that he would play a prominent role in carrying out Trump's promised mass deportations. Well, he is. Did he lie? Yeah. Cash sucks, only gold bars, definitely. As for comment, The White House, the Department of Justice, and the FBI dismissed the investigation as politically motivated. In a statement provided to MSNBC, Kash Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said this matter originated under the previous administration and was subjected to a full review by FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors, and they found no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. The department's resources must remain focused on real threats to the American people, not baseless investigations. As a result, this investigation has been closed. Press Secretary Abigail Jackson slammed the probe as a blatantly political investigation which found no evidence of illegal activity. It's yet another example how the Biden Department of Justice was using its resources to target President Trump's allies rather than investigate real criminals and the millions of illegal aliens who flooded our country. Tom Homan has not been involved in any contract award decisions. He's a career law enforcement officer and a lifelong public servant who is doing a phenomenal job. Homan did not respond for requests for comment. Yeah. Undercover FBI agents posing as contractors communicated and met several times last summer with a business colleague who introduced them to Homan, and with Homan himself, who indicated that he would facilitate securing contracts for them in exchange for money once he was in office, according to the documents and the people familiar with the case. I have a feeling that it's not what happened, because if he said all these things, I think they could have charged him with a crime immediately. But they must have said, hey, if we give you money, or there must have been some weird stuff, and who's this other guy? With hidden cameras recording the scene at a meeting spot in Texas, Homan accepted $50,000 in bills, according to an internal summary of the case. It said they took no further steps in the final months of 2024. So this was just a plan to just smear him and keep him out of office or somehow to screw with them. When agents in Texas began probing, the subject claimed that Homan was soliciting bribes. The president and owner of a private consulting business that said it would help companies in the border security industry win government contracts. So it says he was the president and owner of a private consulting business that said it could help companies in the border security industry win government contracts. So if that's what his business was, a consulting business to help people win contracts, kind of like a lobbying firm, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't say, I'm going to get you jobs. He said, I'll help you try to win contracts. Seems very sketch what they just did, because it says right, like, the border czar was president and owner of a private consulting business that said it could help companies in the border security industry win government contracts. That's what a consultant does, is help. You know what I mean? It's not like he's paying someone else. I mean, how he doesn't, this is just ridiculous. Yeah, and he didn't take the money, you know. He offered to accompany Trump on the campaign trail for months before the election, touted his expected to oversee implementation of Trump's immigration policies. Yeah, going to run the biggest deportation operation the country's ever seen. I mean, several FBI and justice officials believe they had a strong criminal case against Homan for conspiracy to commit bribery based on recording him accepting the cash and apparent promise to assist with contracts. As a private citizen, as a consultant, he said, I can try and help you win contracts. And if he took the money, this seems like the way they're playing games. Like, he didn't commit bribery, he was bribed, according to them. Are they saying he was going to take the money and bribe someone else that because he had no authority to issue contracts? And this is so retarded. He was not a public official, and Trump was not president. His actions clearly didn't fit under the standard bribery charge. Yeah. This is ridiculous. The top officials privately debated the possible charges given his status at the time, but people familiar with the case, several concluded it would be better for the investigation to continue to monitor his actions once he was back in public office. Yeah, it was a complete FBI setup job. He had a business whose business was a consulting business that tried to help companies get there's entire law firms and all this stuff on the left that help people get grants from the government all the time. You come and pay them, and consultants that do. I mean, that's what they do. All these different groups on the left to get all the USAID money. So now they're saying because some guy that's trying to help people get contracts to do border security stuff, somehow that's unless he's paying people or like he's responsible for taking money for giving them contracts, that's a crime. But saying I'll help you fill out the correct paperwork the right way and introduce you to the right people, and I mean that's how government works, man. All right. MSNBC legal experts asked about a hypothetical situation similar to Homan. They said if a person promises to influence federal contractors when they become a public official, can't they be charged? If a person did get the job and reaffirmed the promise or communicated some way of plan to deliver, investigators can make a stronger bribery case. This is ridiculous. This was all about a smear, which they're delivering on right now. Mm-hmm. If someone who is not yet a public official but expects to be takes bribes in exchange for agreeing to take official acts after they are appointed, they can't be charged with bribery, said Randall Eliason, a former chief of public corruption prosecutions in the U.S. Attorney's Office and a former white-collar professor. But they can be charged with conspiracy to commit bribery. In a conspiracy charge, the crime is agreed to commit the criminal act in the future. President Trump announced he would make Homan his border czar. Unlike the job of Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, it did not require Senate confirmation or extensive FBI background check. Oh, see, that's why. So they were gonna drop this on him with the FBI background check to keep him from becoming the head of ICE. That's what. Yeah. Several FBI and Justice Department officials believe Homan's acceptance of the cash provided strong evidence that they should continue to pursue after he took public office. A public integrity section, a squad of seasoned public corruption prosecutors, typically assigned to sets of cases involving elected and other high-profile figures, agreed to join the case in late 2024, according to doctors. Oh, so yeah, so they're like, oh, we're going to come in late 2024 because we're going to get them. Yeah, it's yeah. Shortly after Trump's inauguration in January or February, Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove was briefed on the case and told Justice Department officials he did not support the investigation. Around the same time, the public integrity section was battling with Bove over his demand that they dismiss a bribery charge against New York Mayor Eric Adams. Another political smear that they went after Adams over a fucking plane ticket upgrade. Yeah. Hey, Sharon Tyler, how you doing? How you doing? Why didn't they reveal it? It's because they held it. It's just a smear. It's all it is. They have nothing. Anyway, so that's the first story of the evening. All right. Now we got the second story of the evening is breaking. SCOTUS in a 6-3 decision lets Trump sideline Biden appointee Rebecca Slaughter from the Federal Trade Commission. It's not sideline. Trump fired her. And it's just like he fired Lisa D. Crook from the Federal Reserve, which that's gonna end up going to SCOTUS too. And yeah, taking bribes. Wouldn't it just be considered a consulting fee? That's just dumb. Yeah, it is. His business is I will help you get contracts in border security stuff. I have a consulting firm for people, and that's what he does. That's his business, is to help people because that's the business he was in. In no way, shape, or form was that illegal. Anyway, SCOTUS will also hear arguments in December on overruling Humphrey's executor, a case that upheld congressional limits on firing FTC members. This is a case that they keep citing when they say that Trump can't fire people in the executive branch. Just newsflash. Trump can fire anybody in the executive branch because they all work there at the pleasure of the president. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, here. Oh, Yeah, Supreme Court lets Trump fire FTC Slaughter for now. Here's the thing. It's not for now. She's fired. She might have to get paid, but she's not getting the job back because Humphrey's executor didn't give the guy the job back. It just said, you're entitled to get the money. You get the money. That's it. You can't be forced. We can't force the president to keep somebody working there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're right. They're ignored that Homan's bagging all these illegals in Iraq. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. They're desperate. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So key point, Supreme Court allowed President Trump to remove Rebecca Slaughter as member of the Federal Trade Commission while the justices consider her case. The Supreme Court, in a 6-3 order, granted Trump's request to temporarily block the rulings from judges who had ordered Slaughter's reinstatement. That's right, because see, that's not how it works. You see, a temporary restraining order or an injunction is supposed to keep the status quo, which means the way it is now. Once Trump fired them, the status quo is they're fired. So these injunctions to say hire people back, a court does not have the authority to direct the executive branch to do anything. They don't. They can't force them to do anything. It's not how it works. You know, and of course you got Kagan and Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson, you know, saying, oh, we dissent. The Supreme Court on Monday allowed President Trump to remove Rebecca Slaughter as member of the FTC for now. They keep saying, for now. Well, she's gone. Slaughter's ouster will take effect while the justices consider whether to overturn decades-old court precedent that protects federal agency members from being fired by the president without sufficient cause. The precedent is that they get paid. That's it. That's the precedent. Humphrey's executors, they get paid. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented. Slaughter, who was appointed to a Democratic seat on the FTC during Trump's first term and renominated by former President Joe Biden, sued after Trump fired her from the commission in March. 2 lower federal courts rejected Trump's bid to allow Slaughter's firing while the lawsuit played out. Yeah, they're wrong. The appeals court in D.C. found to grant the request would violate the precedent set by the 1935 Supreme Court ruling known as Humphrey's executor, which is a lie because Humphrey's executor never said anything of the sort. Humphrey's executor said that the guy got paid. He didn't get the job back, which specifically barred presidents from removing FTC commissioners at will. No, it didn't. It said he got his money back. In a 6-3 decision on Monday, the Supreme Court granted Trump's request to temporarily block the ruling from judges who had ordered her reinstatement. At the same time, the High Court agreed to take up the case and set a briefing schedule that would lead to oral arguments in December. So Chief Justice John Roberts said in the ruling. So it's September. So she won't have the job in September, October, November, December, January, February. She gone. She ain't coming back. The justice will consider whether a precedent set in Humphrey should be overruled, whether a federal court may prevent a person's removal from public office. Nope, they can't. Judge Elena Kagan wrote in her dissent that entities similar to the FTC are independent agencies whose members serve staggered terms and cannot be removed except for good reason. Ask Elena Kagan, Miss fucking constitutional attorney, where in the Constitution does it say anything about an independent agency? Where? There's 3 branches of government. 3. There is no such thing as independent agencies. Yet the minority stay order by stay order has had majority by stay order has added full control of those agencies to the president because the president has full control. Holy shit, who dissented and joined Sotomayor, the proud Latina, and the non-biologist, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Trump may now remove, so says the majority, though Congress said differently, any members he wishes for any reason or no reason at all. And he may thereby extinguish the agency's bipartisanship and independence. Oh, well, Kagan said the court's conservative majority, which includes 3 justices whom Trump appointed, may be raring to overturn Humphreys. Well, what they're probably going to say is Humphreys did not give him the job back. Did anyone read Humphreys? But until the deed is done, Humphreys controls and prevents the majority from giving the president the unlimited removal power Congress denied him. That's not what Humphrey's executive. And these people, they read in this stuff. It's not what the law. That's not what the ruling says. It's just like the Wong Kim Ark ruling about birthright citizenship. It did not say everybody born in the United States is a birthright citizen. It said specifically that lawful permanent residents, children, were citizens. That's it. Lawful permanent residents. That's all it said. But yet they take that and they bang ding ow. Yeah, Jerome Powell will be fired where he's letting Cook stay on the federal board. I say on the Fed, yeah. Yeah, that's going to the Supreme Court too. Yeah, there is no 4th branch of government. This is ridiculous. Because the majority stay does that, I respectfully dissent. Our emergency docket should never be used as it has been this year to permit what our own precedent bars. And then Just the News says Supreme Court to hear the case on presidential authority to fire independent board members. There is no such thing as independent board members. I mean, what is wrong with these people? Show me. Show me where the Constitution says it. Supreme Court on Monday agreed to consider whether President Trump has the authority to fire certain board members of independent agencies instead of Congress having to be involved. There is no independent agencies. There isn't. Supreme Court decided to take the case after it ruled in a 6-3 split that Trump could fire Rebecca Slaughter. Yeah, that's right. She fired. She gone. What is this?
58 Democrats who refused to condemn political violence.
No, this is not about this. So, the High Court will be ruling on whether to overturn Franklin Roosevelt era precedent established in 1935 that determined a board member can only be removed by a president for misconduct or neglect of duty. That's not what Humphrey's executive says. That's not what Humphrey said. Oh my God, what is with these people? Daily Caller, Supreme Court will hear a major case on president's ability to fire executive officials. See, at least they got that right. Executive officials. The president has authority to fire any executive official. That's just the way it is. If they are exerting executive power, he has the right to fire them. Man. Oof. How's everybody doing tonight? Some good stuff? Going on? And I don't know. And then, Reason Magazine, the Volkov conspiracy, the Supreme Court agrees to hear merits in case whether the president has power to remove independent agency heads. The Humphrey executive overruling question. This is not, doesn't even have to overrule. It just says, say that's not what Humphrey says. So, Reason, I swear these people, these people. And on to this next story to prove you that the communists are really trying to take over this country. We have the Boston mayor, Michelle Wu, running for re-election. And somehow the person that was running against her, the electoral commission said that they don't have enough votes to proceed in the election. So they withdrew. So now she's running unopposed because the only person running against her was removed from the ballot. So if you can't beat them, you just remove them from the ballot, kind of like they tried to do to Trump, like they did to Bolsonaro, like they did in Hungary, like they did in Romania, like they did in Poland, like they're doing all over the world. It's like this pattern that keeps repeating. Mayor Wu will run unopposed in a re-election bid after challenger's recount bid falls short. What was the first story about? Oh, the first story was about Tom Homan. First story was about Tom Homan and the bribery stuff. And she smiles after visiting a polling place. So, communist Boston Mayor Michelle Wu will run unopposed for her re-election bid after a challenger didn't garner enough votes to advance to the general election. What? The city's election department announced on Monday the city's first communist leader and frequent target of the Trump administration is seeking a second 4-year term. She was expected to face Josh Kraft, a nonprofit leader and son of Patriot owner Robert Kraft, but he dropped out after losing badly to her in the preliminary election earlier this month. They have some really weird election rule in Massachusetts. I swear to God, like preliminary election. What? Since the top 2 vote getters advanced, attention turned to third place finisher Domingo de Rosa. But after a recount of several wards by the city's election board was completed, de Rosa, a community activist who was born in the Cape Verde Islands, did not garner the 3,000 votes needed to qualify on the ballot in November. The last time a mayor ran unopposed was Mayor Thomas Menino in 1997. Oh, Tommy Menino. Wu thanked everyone for their voted for her, and said in a statement that her focus in the coming weeks will be getting people to come out and vote for her. It wasn't a primary. That's what I don't understand. It's not a primary. They're calling it, they have some weird rules. It's not a primary. They have where it's only like basically a jungle thing where there's no parties or something. And then, I don't get it. Why would you even, if there's only one person running, why would you have an election? Is there a way that people could vote, like write in someone else? Maybe, I don't know. It is. It's ridiculous. It says, "Oh, Mayor Wu will face Josh Kraft in fall election." Actually, oh, she exits the mayor race despite advancing to November ballot. So was this like a scam? He went and did it and then dropped out. It's crazy, crazy. And here's local from Boston, Boston.com. Wu will run unopposed in a re-election bid after challenger's recount bid falls short. The first communist mayor and frequent target is seeking second four-year term. Nonprofit leader and son of the Patriots owner Robert Kraft dropped out after losing badly to her in the preliminary election earlier this month. Since the top two vote getters advanced, attention turned to the third place finisher, but after several recounts by the city's election board, community activist who was born in Cape Verde Island did not garner enough votes to qualify. Wu, a communist running for a second term, spent much of the year jousting with the federal government over immigration. On the day of the preliminary election, the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement announcing the arrest of 7 people as part of a crackdown in Massachusetts. Kraft, a fellow Democrat and nonprofit leader, injected millions of his own personal money into the campaign and set records for spending. So they were all Democrats running, no Republican running for mayor of Boston? They couldn't get one Republican to run for mayor of Boston? Seriously? It's just all Democrats? I don't know. Anyway. We got this is a domestic terrorist is currently serving in the United States Congress. Sandy Cortez. We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time of history. What the hell's going on here? This wasn't supposed to be here. How did this get all screwed up? Oh, wait, no, this was supposed to be here. Never mind. I'll get to that in a second. Hold on. I had a thing pulled up and then the story got screwy. Anyway, we find ourselves in a time of history that is precedent, I believe, in time there is, let me say, appears in history of mass movements of people mobilized to protect one another in times of fascism, authoritarianism, and this is the era we're poised to enter. So yes, we have a terrorist in there. So, listen to her. She's getting kind of chunky. Look at how thick them arms are, man. She's getting big.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves, I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on US citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents.
Yeah, Yeah, they got to get their story
This is the
together.
world that
Kamala
we
said he's a
very
communist.
realistically may be entering.
So, yeah. So we got this. We got Joe Manchin levels AOC for discussing remarks about Charlie Kirk and exposes enormous problem for the Dems. Mhm. 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 Manchin levels AOC. Here we go. So the House had a vote on a resolution to honor Turning Point USA co-founder Charlie Kirk and condemn political violence on Friday. It passed, but 58 Democrats had a completely soulless moment and wouldn't vote for it. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez chose that moment, which was supposed to honor Kirk, to attack and slander him instead by twisting things he said or taking them out of context. Oh, let's go back here. So do this.
I thank Gentleman Representative Green for his graciousness. Today, the Republican House majority brought to the floor a resolution honoring, quote, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack and incident of political violence. And condemning the depravity of Kirk's brutal murder is a straightforward matter, one that is especially important to help stabilize an increasingly unsafe and volatile political environment where everyday people feel more at risk. We can deeply disagree and come together as a country to denounce the horror of this killing. And it is not a license for the abuse of power and whitewashing of American history. Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis, instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman. Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today. We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake, who after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant, and
That's never what he said. That is
of
bullshit.
controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working, quote, working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution. It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across the country, all in the name of Charlie Kirk. President Trump and the FCC are now cynically threatening to shut down ABC and any outlets who give airtime to the administration's political critics. This is a disgusting attack on the American people and the very First Amendment rights that define us as a country. It is also the ABC Corporation's responsibility
Oh, okay. My computer just froze.
to refuse to embolden and
I don't know what the hell
participate
just
in this
happened there.
corruption and escalation of censorship. We continue to pray for Mr. Kirk's family and loved ones in the wake of this terrible act. I am thinking especially of his children and his wife, whose grief cannot be measured. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman.
I bid the lady good day and would proceed now.
Okay. I just want to point something out. We're going to do this real quick. We're going to go to this just so we can see. This is actually what Charlie Kirk said. It says, student, you believe criminality is an inherent trait to the black race? Charlie, no, I don't. They weren't that way in the 40s and 50s. Black Americans was one of the most peaceful, flourishing, economically fastest growing communities in the country. It's not genetic. Everyone who's taking that out of context, what Charlie said about black Americans, would be better off being in the 1940s and 50s before the Civil Rights Act, needs to watch this. He explains his position quite clearly. He's not calling for a return to socially accepted racism or Jim Crow. He's pointing out that at that time, blacks outpaced whites in the terms of marriage rates, fathers in the homes, despite the fact that they actually had to face a great deal of legally and socially acceptable racism. So his point that we can all blithely pin off the black American community's problems today on racism, if they were in fact outpacing whites when racism was actually prevalent, encouraged, written and raw, and widely accepted. So here, let's see.
We don't address that as the root cause. Oh, it's white supremacy, it's injustice, it's economics. We're dancing around the core of the issue.
I guess what I'm saying is, right, and you've perfectly actually laid out the dichotomy here. It is a fact, obviously, that black people disproportionately commit crime in this country. No one's arguing that. But you either believe that that is due to a complex intersection of social, economic, and like leftover effects from previous inequalities, or you believe that that is an inherent trait to the race.
No, I don't, because they weren't that way in the 1940s and 50s. Black America was one of the most peaceful, flourishing, fastest growing economically communities in the country. It's not genetic. You're trying to point something on me that I don't believe. Instead,
but then
Black
you do
America,
believe that it's not genetic, so you do think CRT is correct.
Hold on a second.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
In the 1940s and 1950s, Black America was prosperous and was on pace to be richer and wealthier than white America. More dads were staying with the women that they were with. There was monogamy. What changed?
You're supporting my argument.
No, hold on. But answer the question. What changed? Did America get more racist since the 1950s?
I would argue there were more racist policies passed. There were more policies dedicated to lining off those communities and pushing them into poor housing and poor schools.
Wait a second. In the 1950s, Jackie Robinson had not even broken the color barrier. We had Jim Crow laws. We hadn't passed the Civil Rights Act, and we hadn't passed the Voting Rights Act. Yet blacks were better in the 1950s per capita than they are today. So we have become less racist. We've passed more anti-racist laws and given more stuff, and blacks are worse than they were 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Why?
So you're equating here institutional and social racism. Social racism was certainly worse in the 1950s. I'm sure everyone would agree. But institutional racism occurs when policies are passed against people.
Come on.
Which can increase over time, and it did.
You're not being intellectually honest. You know that. There was black-only drinking fountains in the 1950s. We don't have those anymore. Well, we're bringing them back with, black-only dormitories. But we had, for example, in the antebellum South in the 1950s, we had white-only communities, white by law. We got rid of that with the Civil Rights Act. But it didn't, unfortunately, we look around, the numbers speak for themselves. Black youth are less likely to have fathers. They're not doing as well as far as economically. They commit more crime. So something changed. And our argument is what changed is three things. Number one, the imposition of the Great Society Project by Lyndon Baines Johnson of spending $30 trillion since 1960s on Section 8 housing, on welfare, on all sorts where, as I said, that young black women married the government and they divorced young black men. And then we also have had as Thomas Sowell and as Clarence Thomas would say, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And we have been afraid to get to the root of the issue or even speak about it because we don't be called a racist.
So what is imposing those low expectations?
Part of it is like white academic culture. I'll give you an example. I'm not saying you believe this, but Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, has come out and said having an ID to vote is racist. That is code for saying black people are too dumb to get a voter ID.
You're doing it again. You're simplifying a very nuanced, complex argument from the real people who are making it.
Is voter
You're making it too simple. You're making it too simple. It's very complex. Just because if it's anything that's bad for the Democrats, it's racist. You know what I mean? Because that's just their answer to everything. That is their answer to everything. Okay. Let's get back to this now. Yeah, so they couldn't have some basic human decency for once and shut their mouths and hold their thoughts to themselves or think about someone else for a change. CNN's Casey Hunt asked former Democrat Senator Joe Manchin about his reaction to what AOC had said. And I don't think she anticipated the response, and she didn't look happy at all with what he had to say. He said this was one of the reasons that the Democrats are losing people like him. Yeah, here's former Senator. I guess I got to go back over here. Got to keep bouncing back and forth because
she does say that we should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was, a man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. She goes on to
damn it, stop it. Man, I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of trouble with opera tonight. It's acting crazy. So Joe Manchin torches AOC over a vile rhetoric about Charlie Kirk. This is the way it's going to get worse, not better. If this is the way the Democrat Party is going, it's going to get worse, not better.
she does say that we should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was, a man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. She goes on to name some of the other things that he believes in. What was your reaction to her vote and her statement afterward?
First of all, I just saw it a little while ago, and I was stunned, Casey. I really was. This is not the place and the time for that at all. If the Democrats, if AOC and the far left, the extreme left, I'm going to say, believe that's where the party, the Democratic Party, is today, then that'll tell you why you lost people like me, and an awful lot. And let me tell you what you've lost since the last election. They've been doing their national tour and thinking, boy, that's something. We're really getting into something. The Democratic Party has lost more than 160,000 Democrats that have basically left the party since November election. So if that's the way the Democratic Party is going, it's getting worse, not better.
Getting worse, not better. Yeah, so I was stunned, he said. Not the place or time. Democrats see 160,000. Bingo. They think that picking up some of the leftist base who've always been mouthing off, but in the process, they're losing all the folks in the middle. And those are the folks they need to win national elections, not the tiny base of radical leftists that doesn't bode well for Democrats as we go into the midterms in 2026. He also laid it out on Bill Maher's HBO show, explaining that Democrats were more concerned with protecting people who could work but didn't want to. I was a Democrat all my life. The better to figure out how they lost people like me.
I was a Democrat all my life. They better figure out how they lost people like me. Okay? And the only thing I have said, when you quit worrying about the working person, their working conditions, you're worried more about a person that's able-bodied and capable of working that won't work versus me who will work, there's something wrong. And they lost them. All right. Gotta leave it.
The audience applauded. Instead of thinking about what the American people want or moving to the center, the Democrats just keep running further left, embracing illegal aliens, attacking law enforcement. It's not a winning message. Editor's note. The Democrat Party has never been less popular as voters reject its globalist agenda. Help us keep exposing it. Yeah, I saw this other thing. Where is it? This. Real quick. I got another one here. There we go. When CNN breaks down how massive a lead Republicans have over Democrats in the upcoming midterms. The Democrats have not picked up the ball. The Republican lead has actually gone up. What are you doing, Democrats? Ready? Boop, boop, boop. This is CNN, by the way.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats and oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime? A big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Look at that. Lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
And again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2025. We still find that the Republicans leading on all 3 of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
Wow. That's crazy, right? That's just crazy. Crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, this other guy's got the same thing. He says, Joe Manchin says Democrats lost 160,000 members after the AOC Charlie Kirk memorial rant. Oh, what is this? Political parties like aging price fighters sometimes don't realize. What is this? All right, I'm done with you then. That's how you want to be. All right. And this is about, basically, there's some other stuff going on with some other stuff. Yeah. Democrats is a losing party, but Republicans are mostly rhinos, so we still need accountability. Yeah, that's the problem. The Republicans, yeah, and Daniel, you're right. Joe Manchin knows how to speak to normies, and losing Joe, that's why they say how bad things are in the DNC. I thought there was talk of Joe Manchin going to try to run for governor of West Virginia, but I think he changed his mind. He would have been better off just switching parties. He wouldn't have had to change much. Says, you know, Terrence Williams says, you're put on notice, Republicans, if you don't go after Ilhan Omar, then don't come asking for our money or our votes when you need help. Omar spent the weekend mocking and celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, calling him un-American. This is the same woman who downplayed 9/11 by saying some people did something. She even married her own brother to commit immigration fraud. She has disgraced Congress, disgraced her oath, and disgraced the nation. She shouldn't even be in this country, let alone making laws for Americans. If Republicans can't find the courage to hold her accountable, then why should we trust them to fight for us? Yeah. Oh, she got a nice boat rope on her head, though. Listen and share. Oh, here we go. What's it say? Most people don't know this about Ilhan Omar. Let's see. What is this?
Let's take Elon Omar as an example, okay? She comes from a family, and they call her a refugee who came from Somalia, right? They call her a refugee. Her family were the governing party, the Marxist Islamist government in Somalia, who were overthrown and then fled. Now, technically, that makes her a refugee, but she wasn't fleeing oppression, or rather, her family weren't fleeing oppression. They were fleeing justice. They were fleeing their own people, holding them to account for the dictatorship that they had established. So you have people like the Omar family, and what do they?
Why they gotta play music over it like that? That just pisses me off. We got this Scott Jennings response to Jasmine Crockett's anti-Charlie Kirk rant. I know he was already governor. He's not. The term limits is consecutive to 2 terms. Yeah, there are 2 terms, and then they have to be off a term, and then they come back. It's the same thing in Florida. Your 2 terms, and then you can come back after you got 1 term off. Didn't I cover this last night? I don't think so. Oh, I covered the whole story about Omar's family. Yes, Omar's father. I did. Yeah, I did cover the stuff about Omar's father. CNN, a senior political commentator, Scott Jennings, ripped Jasmine Crockett on Sunday after the Texas Democrat attacked Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk earlier on the network. Crockett appeared on Sunday's State of the Union and went after the slain conservative leader after host Dana Bash pressed her about voting against the resolution condemning his murder. She bemoaned that only 2 Caucasians joined her in opposition and labeled Kirk a Confederate with harmful rhetoric. Yeah, it's actually he was trying to take down Marine One, dude. Kirk was killed. What? So Kirk was killed in Utah. Oh, this is why I don't like the Daily Caller with these stupid boxes. Kirk was killed in Utah September 10th by an assassin. When Bash confronted Crockett about her past heated rhetoric, she doubled down, bashing both Kirk and Donald Trump and making another Hitler comparison. When Bash asked Jennings for his response, he unleashed at her, stating 3 simple words. Well, she's lying. Yeah. Charlie Kirk targeted nobody. He was not racist in any way. I've listened to hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of Charlie Kirk debates and talks, and have been with Charlie Kirk and did events with Charlie Kirk and knew Charlie Kirk. There wasn't a racist bone in his body. To say that he was continuously targeting people of color is nothing but a malicious smear on the very day that people are remembering Charlie, and he's going to be laid to rest. And so I think when you combine the no votes on the resolution, and then you look at the leading Democratic voices like Ilhan Omar and Jasmine Slavey Crockett, who's going out to smear Charlie Kirk before he's even had his funeral. When I hear people say we need to come together and both sides need to turn down the rhetoric, a lot of people saying that need to look inward right now. I was shocked at that. Well, I think I should say that I'm shocked by her, but I was a little stunned by what happened this morning. 4 Republicans joined Democrats to defeat a resolution to censure Omar for comments she made during his September 11th appearance on Zito News, where she told Mehdi Hassan that those defending Kirk's campus appearances were full of shit. Crockett has a history of making inflammatory statements and recently compared the United States ICE to slave patrols, defending comparisons. That's why I call her Slavey Crockett. And she appeared on The Breakfast Club, claimed Trump supporters were mentally ill, and mocked Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who uses a wheelchair. Newsman says, I just joined, but based on the press secretary's statement today, he didn't actually take the money. If he would have, it would technically have been conspiracy, but not bribery itself. Yeah, he didn't. They tried to pay him, and he goes, what are you doing? I can't take money for this. And gave it back. All right. Yeah. And then this is a good thing. I saw this and I wanted to include this today. It says, Charlie Kirk's assassination is not random. History shows the pattern. Label your opponents evil, for example, Nazis and fascists. This implies normal rules don't apply to them. Excuse or celebrate the violence. It happened before in Germany, Rwanda, and even here in America. That's why so many people are celebrating it and are okay with it. The left has created a permission structure for violence, and they are perpetrating that permission structure for violence by not taking accountability for what their rhetoric does. We need to call this out aggressively. Okay, he says, yes, Manchin can run again, but he's 78 and just likes staying on his farm. So let's see here. This guy is very intelligent, I think.
We've been elected to lead, not to blame the other side, not to stoke hate and division and anger and fear. This was a horrific murder that we saw play out. We each have a responsibility to bring this state and this country together, not to continue to divide.
Democrats continuously create a permission structure for violence. This is important. I also want you to think about this. How many times have you seen Democrats calling for unity with Trump? Really think about that. How often or how many times have you seen Democrats calling for unity with Trump? Now, I also want you to ask yourself, how many times have they tried to completely destroy him? Now you see a lot of Democrats calling for unity after someone that had their beliefs murdered one of the most influential people on the right in cold blood. It's hypocritical. It seems they want unity when their side has done something wrong. Listen to this, and this is important because, again, when I was talking about the permission structure for violence that Democrats have created and continue to maintain, listen to this. This isn't random. Charlie Kirk's assassination and the celebration of it fits into a historical playbook that has repeated over and over again. When you understand the mechanics, it becomes obvious where America's heading if this isn't confronted. Step 1, define the opponent as evil. Every time Democrats call conservatives fascist, Nazis, or threats to democracy, they aren't just debating. They're branding conservatives as illegitimate outside the boundaries of normal political competition. Here are some historical echoes, right? In the 1930s, Germany called the Jews parasites and rats. 1990s in Rwanda, Tutsis branded cockroaches. 1960s America, civil rights activists dismissed as agitators and communists. Once someone is defined as evil, violence stops being seen as violence. It then becomes defense. Step 2, signal that normal rules don't apply. If conservatives are Nazis, then punching them isn't assault, it's resistance. If Charlie Kirk is a fascist, then shooting him isn't terrorism, it's liberation. This is how permission structures form, not through direct calls for violence, but by shifting the moral framework so opponents no longer qualify for the same protections. Step 3, justify, minimize, or celebrate the violence. And this is exactly what we've seen after Charlie Kirk's murder. Online voices mocking him, media pundits saying, we don't know if the shots were fired, maybe in celebration, ignoring common sense realities. Celebration is the final stage. Once violence is normalized, more people begin to see it as acceptable, even desirable. So why this matters now? This isn't just a story about Charlie Kirk, it's about the trajectory of America. The left has created the narrative scaffolding, delegitimize the right, redefine free speech as misinformation, redefine lawful opposition as extremism, and redefine murder as resistance. That scaffolding can and will be used against anyone who refuses to submit. This isn't about defending democracy, it's about defending Democrats' political power. As long as Democrats continue to not take accountability for their dangerous rhetoric and they continue to ignore how their rhetoric has got extreme individuals doing extreme things, they will continue to participate in sustaining this permission structure for violence. And as we see right now, they are taking no accountability for it. We need to call this out relentlessly because this is very important. Democrats have created and are maintaining a permission structure for violence. It needs to be called out aggressively. The excerpt I was reading from is one of the articles I sent out to some of my Substack followers. That's the email newsletter I'm talking about. The link is in my profile. So just go to my profile, click that link. You'll see this screen here, drop your email and hit subscribe and you'll be good to go. I cannot be censored there. I hope.
Yeah, this guy is pretty good, man. I say, left's creating a permission structure for violence and they're perpetrating the permission structure for violence by not taking accountability for what the rhetoric does. Spot on. Excellent term for what the Democrats and the media partners engage in every single day. How do we dismantle it and collapse it? Look at this. Here's the, just so you guys know, this is the, you guys compare these two things, one on the left and one on the right. What do you see here? Socialism, gun control, control the media, censorship, abortion, worship the government, encourage violence. History is repeating itself. And a little known fact, you guys could just go and Google it and look it up, that party in Germany, a lot of their policies were based on the Democrat Party's policies. But they said that the Democrats' one-drop rule was just too extreme for them. They couldn't go that far. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Elon Musk says this is an excellent summary of the game plan.
All right, let's debunk the New York Times.
If you want to understand what Elon Musk is doing now to the federal government, all you have to do is look at what he did at Twitter.
In October 2022, Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion and molded it in his own image.
He focused on mass layoffs, on reducing real estate footprint, and on pushing employees to resign so that he could cut back on payroll and real estate costs.
Now he's taking those same tactics to the US government.
Just look at the email that the federal government recently sent to its workers, offering them a buyout to leave the government.
It echoed a similar message that Elon Musk sent to Twitter employees in November 2022 with the exact same subject line.
Musk uses an approach to his businesses called zero-based budgeting. He's now started to use that tactic in government and say basically government spending needs to come down to zero and line items need to be added back one at a time.
And some of the same people that Elon Musk used during his Twitter takeover are now being deployed to help cut costs.
Sounds great.
So it's worth asking, how successful were Elon Musk's tactics in reducing costs at Twitter? While he's cut costs in slashing back budgets, in reducing headcount by around 80% of people, corresponding revenue has also gone down.
Its valuation per investors has declined significantly from the $44 billion that Musk paid for the company in 2022. And what happened to those who were late?
They're very selective with their information. And the goal is to push a certain narrative to get you to think that what Elon is doing with the government is bad. But they say, hey, you know, if you want to see what he's doing with the government, just look at what he did with Twitter when he took it over. So yes, he cut a bunch of staff that was unnecessary, and he cut unnecessary cost down. If we apply that to the government, that means more taxpayer savings and more money for us to get our government out of debt. But that's not it. All they told you is that revenues have decreased. So let's go back specifically to what he said.
Budgets in reducing headcount by around 80% of people. Corresponding revenue has also gone down.
Notice how he didn't say corresponding profit has also went down, because it hasn't. Notice how he also didn't tell you that there was an advertising coup against X. A bunch of platforms stopped advertising on there to hurt the platform since Elon took it over. But let's go back to profit. He didn't say anything about profit or EBITDA. Let's read this. Start at the bottom paragraph. In 2021, Twitter reported adjusted EBITDA of about $682 million and about $5 billion in revenue. That was the last full year before Elon took the company private. Now let's go to the top. X reported to investors 2024 adjusted earnings, basically adjusted EBITDA, right, of about $1.25 billion and an annual revenue of $2.7 billion. Investors said that that was a better picture than they had expected, and that X's finances hit an inflection point a few months before the election. So even with advertisers working against Elon, the company now has less revenue, but produces more profit. And mind you, Twitter was a very, very, very left-leaning company. Over 96% of political donations from Twitter employees went to Democrats. It was a very left-leaning company. It was run by the left. So Elon took that company over, removed all the unnecessary pieces, and removed the people that would be harmful to the platform. Dealt with advertisers trying to destroy his platform, and still turned it around. Now it has more features than ever and is more profitable than it was when he took it over with less revenue. And like she said in the beginning,
If you want to understand what Elon Musk is doing now to the federal government, all you have to do is look at what he did at Twitter.
so now let's think about it. He cut the expenses at Twitter, which would mean he would cut the expenses for the federal government, meaning they would require less tax revenue from you and I. He then made Twitter much more profitable. If he makes the federal government much more profitable, that means more access to pay off our debts, and then more access to provide services for the American people. Twitter has greatly benefited from Elon Musk, and our federal government will do the same. The less expenses our government has, the less tax revenue they need to collect from you and I. The less tax revenue you and I pay, the more money we get to keep in our pockets. And the more profitable the government is, the more they can reinvest back into the American people rather than just paying debts. Do not listen to these news outlets. Elon and Doge are doing exactly what we need.
Yep, exactly what we need. Mm-hmm. I wanted to play these because this guy, I just found this guy, and I thought he was very good and his stuff, so I wanted to share it. That's basically. Tim Walz, there's no guarantee on free speech, misinformation, or hate speech. Then Tim Walz, when Jimmy Kimmel gets fired for spreading a lie, this is North Korea style stuff. The hypocrisy is insane. When Dems say defending democracy, they don't mean defending actual democracy. They mean defending Democrats' political power.
This is it. Oh, hi, Chris. Good to see you. This is it. If you ever wondered how democracy dies, you're witnessing it. And I know it's people are watching a football game tonight, and we're kind of sleepwalk through this thing. But
don't remind
this
them.
is,
We got him here.
One of the most outrageous affronts. Yeah, well, right. It's one of the most outrageous affronts on this. This is North Korea style stuff, and it's being done because this is a weak, thin-skinned man.
Is this you?
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
So earlier, free speech doesn't apply to misinformation and hate speech. According to Tim Walz, there's no First Amendment right to those things. But then when a bad comedian gets fired because he insinuated a lie about a political assassination, now this is North Korea style stuff. These people are not principled. They do not care. Their main goal is to demonize Donald Trump and attempt to make him and the right look bad. That is their goal. That is their angle. It's not about being ideologically consistent. I also want you to pay attention. Let's go back to what he said in the very beginning. That word, democracy.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you. This is it. If you ever wondered how democracy dies, you're witnessing it.
Remember what I said earlier. Replace the word democracy with Democrats' political power. Democrats are currently losing the culture war. They're also losing the political war. And Republicans are continuously gaining momentum. No, this isn't about democracy dying. This is about Democrats' political power slowly dying or quickly dying, however you want to put it. The same guy that's talking about our democracy is the same one who was saying there's essentially no First Amendment right to misinformation. But who gets to determine what misinformation is? So he's not worried about democracy. He's worried about Democrats losing. He wants them to win. And they see one of the best ways to do that is to make Donald Trump look bad. It's funny because they haven't figured out that people aren't buying that anymore. They know that that's your play card. That's all you're going to do is demonize Donald Trump. So it loses its effect because no one can take it seriously. It's like the boy who cried wolf. That is essentially all they have, and they call people racist, Nazis, and bigots. Anyway, just a reminder, I have a free email newsletter where I break down many of these topics. I also give you morning updates about what's going on. A great place to get information directly from me. The link is on my profile. Just go there, click that link. You'll see the screen here. Also, if you're on Instagram, there's an ad for Ground News there right now. So just click that link. There'll be 2 links. The newsletter will be under that link. So when you click that link, you'll see the screen here. Anyway, drop your email in, hit subscribe, and you'll be good to go. That's all I got for now. We'll see you in the next one.
Cool. I recommend everybody subscribe to him. Like, it's free. Just put your email in and you'll get get blasts from him. So one last one from him. Says Democrats will go out of their way to cause problems at ICE facilities and obstruct federal officers from doing their jobs. Then they'll play the victim when they're not allowed to obstruct ICE from doing their job. Narcissistic traits.
I'm back at the Broadview ICE facility where, in part of a protest just a few minutes ago, not only did they come with weapons and violent show of force and drive a van into us, but then they tear gassed us. And I have to tell you, it was terrifying. It was impossible to breathe and really, really scary. But the point is they are trying to intimidate us, to stop us from standing up and being a part of a nonviolent resistance. And we will not be intimidated.
They're being violent.
Way to obstruct ICE officers doing their job at an ICE facility. And then he comes on camera with the energy like ICE is trying to do something to them. ICE is trying to do their job. You guys are harassing them. And that requires them to use tear gas, to get physical, to physically remove you guys because you guys are blocking the driveway out of the ICE facility. This is what Democrats do. They go up to an ICE facility, illegally obstruct the officers from doing their job, and then they play the victim when those ICE officers use methods to disperse the crowd and remove them from blocking the driveway in and out of the ICE facility. But the Democrats are the victims. They're trying to intimidate us. They're trying to stop us. They're trying to do their jobs. And you guys are trying to stop them from enforcing the laws that were put in place by democratically elected leaders. But yet you guys care to claim so much about democracy. These people, again, are not ideologically consistent. I do not understand how people take Democrats seriously. I genuinely don't. It does not make sense to me. Go to an ICE facility, cause a bunch of problems, and then play the victim and say they're trying to intimidate us. You went to where they operate and tried to cause problems for them, but yet you're somehow the victim. You guys are the victims. These people are pathetic. Like, I just want people to be aware of what they're doing. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Just a reminder, I have a free email newsletter where I give you morning updates about what's going on. This is one of the only places I cannot be censored. The link's in my profile. Just go there, click the link. You'll see this screen here. Drop your email in, hit subscribe, and you'll be good to go. Anyway, that's all I got for now. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, this guy's pretty good. I like his stuff. Yeah. Democrats welcome 20 million illegals in America in order to change the census for voting, and they say Republicans are gerrymandering. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? And then we got Joe Manchin then goes on MSNBC and he says he backs Trump on several key decisions so far. And it says former independent West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin was always a Democrat. Joe Manchin never became an independent. This is a lie. He stayed a Democrat until he was out of office. To call him independent. He didn't switch. If he would have switched, it would have flipped control of the Senate at the time because Kirsten Sinema went independent. And Joe Manchin didn't go independent. So this is a lie right in the front of this. I don't get it. That he backed President Trump's second term moves on immigration, border security, and crime. The Trump administration has received 4 consecutive months without paroling a single migrant into the nation, and the president's crackdown on crime in the nation's capital has yielded positive results. On MSNBC's The Weekend, Manchin credited Trump with securing the border and working to tackle crime. Yeah. Yeah. Federal law enforcement used to be respected, and it was a federal crime to attack or disrupt operations. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Sinema still voted and caucused with the Dems. Yeah. Yeah, she did. Oh, I hate the Daily Caller. I think everyone should. I think everyone knows we should have a secure border. I beg the Democrats not to do asylum at the border, Manchin said. I think that's correct. I think the crime in our streets, I don't have a problem with doing whatever we can, but you can't just pick people off the streets. Daniels interrupted Manchin to ask if he supported Trump deploying the National Guard to Democrat-run cities. If I was a crime-ridden in my state, I'd welcome the help I could get. Don't leave me in a lurch. Now they're going to leave sooner or later, and I'm going to go back to where I was. Are you going to help me finance this? People want a crime-free area, and they want secure borders. Democrats should be ashamed. Mr. President, we made a mistake. We'll work with you on securing the border. We'll work with you. We work with us on legal immigration. We need legal immigration for this country to continue to be the world power. We don't. We don't. This is a bunch of bullshit. Why would we need people from all around the third world whose countries are all fucked up? They can't do anything in their country. Why would we need them here? Why would we need these people saying like, oh, we need these people to come here and do the jobs that Americans can't do, won't do? So what is it? So Americans are just a bunch of lazy, fat slobs that can't do anything? This is bullshit. Yeah. It says Joe did change to independent in the middle of 2024, but still didn't change the voting in D.C., just like Bernie. Oh. Yeah, it's the right thing to do. My ancestors came that way. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. When all these, what was the difference then when these people came in the 1800s, 1900s? Was America that much different than the places they were coming from? I mean, the standard, like how they lived, or was it about the same? I mean, now we're taking people that don't have, basically people that shit in the streets are coming here and shitting in our streets. President Obama's former chief campaign strategist, David Axelrod, also rebuked the Democrat Party for its border policy during a September 12th episode of Fast Politics with Molly Jung Fast. It was insane to spend 3 years before you did something serious about the border. Insane. Joe Biden did not sign an executive order to clamp down on the border until his final year after 6 million southern border encounters, which I thought it was way more than that. He also asserted for months before signing it that there was no action he could take. Yeah, you're right. We do not need third world invaders taking our limited resources. No more immigrants. Mm-hmm. Border Patrol agents made 6,319 apprehensions on the U.S.-Mexico border in August, leading to an average of just 204 arrests per day, according to the latest data posted by CBP. Just under 26,000 encounters were made nationwide through the entire month. That number is 93% lower than the monthly national average under the Biden administration. But these are the Democrats right here. See, Laura Nash, a meteorologist for the New Orleans, WNS New Orleans National Weather Service, allegedly made this post online suggesting that the funeral of Charlie Kirk was exactly the same as a Nazi rally. Huh. All those tech wizard Indians. Yeah, I mean the people they have that basically it's like a degree certification mills where they just like a garage where they just pump out these things. They don't actually know what they're doing. They just lie and fake it and come in, and they're not really advanced. The only thing they're good at is scamming. Our tax dollars pay her salary. Any comments? So here she is. Look at it. Yeah, see? She said, Laura Nash says, I visited Nuremberg when I went to Germany in 2023. I took a whole day tour of Munich, where the day before I spent 8 hours on tours learning about the Nazi regime and visiting Dachau. When we went to Nuremberg, I got to stand on the spot Hitler used to stand for his rallies. And then in the stadium he used nearby. The picture looks exactly like it came from the images I was shown that day. Yeah. This picture is not Charlie Kirk's thing. This is not what it looked like. I'm sorry. This picture is not from Charlie. The stage is not what the stage looked like. I watched it. Hmm? Laura Nash's vile comparison of Charlie Kirk's memorial to a Nazi rally is exactly why taxpayers shouldn't fund bureaucrats pushing partisan propaganda. Kirk was a patriot who mobilized millions to defend America First values. His funeral honored that legacy, not some twisted historical revisionism. Hey, Rogue Dot, what's up? How you doing? Thanks for stopping by tonight. The real outrage is a six-figure salary for federal employees who weaponize their platforms to slander conservatives while the DC shrugs. To fund the bloat, honor the patriots. Yeah. Yeah, the floor is completely different. The stage is different. It's a lie. Yeah, it's a lie, too. That stadium was destroyed. It's very little of it remains. Yeah. No, she's an idiot. She didn't study anything. Probably didn't even know when. She's probably one of those people who, when you ask, when World War II was, she would say something like 1974 or something. You ask them when independence was, and you never see that. Ask women, or I should say women. Ask people. When was World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam? When were those wars? And see what they say. What years? When was the Revolutionary War? Oh, okay, yeah. She went to Nuremberg for 8 hours. She's one of those experts we heard all about. Yeah, probably. Kirk's sacrifice deserves respect, not cheap shots from desk jockeys cashing government checks to spit on his memory. Yeah, here, this is very good. So, an old woman wearing a "Be Kind" shirt tries to decapitate a Trump effigy. It wasn't 1974. Are you sure? Oh, I think. Didn't Vietnam end in 73 or 74? Why? Was it 73 or 74? Was it 75? When did Vietnam fall? When were the helicopters taken off from the fall of Saigon? When was that? 74? Was it 74? 73, 74, 75, something like that? I think it was. I have to look at the dates. Ready?
Trump, escucha. Trump, escucha. Trump, escucha. Dale duro. Trump, escucha, estamos en la lucha. Trump, escucha.
So you see these people, right? You see these people. They're like old commies, like liberal hypocrisy. Make America kind again. April 75. Was it April 75? Was it? I thought it was like 74, 75, something like that. Yeah. Do unto others. Look at this. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Make America kind again. Oh, wow. And see these people? It's all lies. It's like the coexist thing. It's all bullshit. Vietnam ended in 93. Korea was 85. Desert Storm was 99. I'm right because I'm educated. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, but America didn't get involved in World War I until 1917, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they love Jesus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then that guy saying we should start making knives with no points, not sharp, just flabbergasted to stupidity. Yeah, Idris Elba. Yeah. Wow. Satan fears when we pray like this. Vietnam officially was 75? Okay. A resolution came forward to condemn the assassination and honor the life of Melissa Hortman. The entire House unanimously supported it. That same resolution with a name change to Charlie Kirk, you had 58 Democrats vote against it. Jean de Valette says, there was a lot of child evacuations out of Vietnam before the fall of Saigon. My sister arrived in 74 via a group of nuns who rescued her after her mother died. Yeah. No, I just meant basically when the helicopters were taken off out of Saigon. That was like, I mean, technically, I think the war was over in 73. Like we pulled our troops out. I want to say like our ground troops out. I think it's 73 or 72 or 73. And then like we were still helping with like airstrikes and stuff for a while. And you've done laps on the Nuremberg Ring. The same. That's the same. Okay.
This is also a network that has not been friendly to this administration whatsoever. And so I don't think a threat would make any difference whatsoever. They made a decision because Jimmy Kimmel said something that was extremely insensitive and a flat out lie about the president of the United States. And there was no excuse for it. There is no excuse for making a joke. I don't care if you're a comedian or who you are, to making a joke about an assassination. There's no room for that at all. And ABC made that decision. And just like Fox made the decision over Tucker Carlson. And for anyone to say that we're trying to silence free speech, these are the same people that didn't stick up for Tucker Carlson when he got fired for speaking his mind about COVID on Fox. So this isn't a two-way street at this point. This is the left that's being extremely hypocritical of themselves. And the hypocrisy is bad. And Dana, let me point out something too, and he may or may not get to this question, but I want to point out the hypocrisy on the left again over just what happened yesterday, or Friday in the House of Representatives, when you had Melissa Hartman, the state representative that was assassinated. A resolution came forward. The entire House unanimously supported to condemn and to honor the life of her, condemn the assassination and honor the life. That same resolution with a name change said Charlie Kirk. What happened? Senator, well, I want to point this out, though. You had 58. But I want to point it out, too, because the hypocrisy for both sides on the free speech needs to be pointed out, because the same resolution that had Charlie Kirk's name on, you had 58 representatives vote no, 38 voted present, 22 chose not to vote. That is silent. So you had 118 individuals that didn't condemn it.
Okay,
Because
Senator,
why? Because of hypocrisy over both sides. Yeah, we're going to get to that, but that doesn't help me make my point that Republicans are evil. Dana Bash. Like, what, man? She walks into a bar, they say, why the long face? Scott Steiner math. Yeah, it was some weird math there. All right, now we got this. This is on to the next story. Trump administration links pregnancy Tylenol use to autism, faces medical industry opposition. We don't say. Hey, man, we've been going an hour and a half now. Wow, what do you know? We've been going an hour and a half. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. And say out of 105 people watching, only 80 hit the like button. Why don't we work on that there? And we got about an hour left to show here. Unless we hit the goal, and then we'll extend it by an hour. I'm going to point out to everybody, if you don't notice, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows, though, because all the same people that are here all the time, that if we have this Bellavision that could get added for whatever. Trump announces FDA will change Tylenol safety label, urges pregnant mothers to prevent autism risk in children. Don't take it. President Trump. President Trump urged pregnant women on Monday to stop taking Tylenol, saying studies have shown that taking the common painkiller is associated with autism in children. Yeah, we haven't had any bells tonight. Not a single bell tonight. No bells. We had no bells. No cha-chings. Nothing. President Trump, which, if you think about this, the Tylenol stuff, I mean, Tylenol came on. When did Tylenol come on the market? Late 60s, early 70s, right? Acetaminophen. When did acetaminophen come on the market? Let's look at this. When? Says it came on the market in 1950 for an elixir for children. With Tylenol, don't take it, Trump said. Ideally, don't take it, but if you have to, don't take. If you can't tough it out. If there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it. Trump said that the only time pregnant women should take Tylenol, a common form of acetaminophen, is during a high-risk fever. Yeah, aspirin came out before, but then there's like risk of like Rye disease. I think in aspirin. Oh, hey, Trumpinator for $5 says here you go. Here's $5. Wow, cool. So I'll adjust the banner down. I don't think we're gonna hit the goal tonight, but we'll adjust it down anyway. $70 for the first, or $70 away from the first additional hour or Bellavision. Would you mind making the bell sound lower? It's so much louder than your show, and my dogs bark. It's late here, and I'm afraid of annoying the neighbors. Oh, I could turn the bell down, sure. Sorry. Is that better? My kids are adults now. I took Tylenol when I'm pregnant with my 4 sons, but not my daughter, who is the oldest. My sons are different levels of autistic. I have 4 grandchildren with autism. Jim, trying to get you evicted? What do you mean? How am I trying to get you evicted? I don't know what you mean. I'm trying to think about the Tylenol because I was thinking, because the prevalence of Tylenol use, I think, really went up in the 70s and 80s. So it's possible that that's what's called, maybe, I don't know. But I think it's worth looking into. The new recommendation is at odds with physician groups who say the drug, which has been on the market for 70 years. Oh, if I change the bell to a Muslim call to prayer, would it be? Was this better? Health and Human Services, in particular, Mount Sinai and Harvard University study published in August reviewed the existing literature and concluded that a large majority of studies on the topic found autism diagnosis was far more likely for expectant mothers who took acetaminophen. Oh. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. is also recommending children who are exhibiting signs of autism take Lecorvarin, which helps correct folate deficiencies. Low levels of folate in pregnant mothers have been associated with neurological disorders in children, some studies show. I also have this one that I added. Where is it? You stopped using acetaminophen and Zofran on pregnant women about 10 years ago. Then 2 years later, we started using it again. Yeah. Well, I know it's the thing. Tylenol. A lot of people don't realize is Tylenol destroys your kidneys. I think, right, or liver. Your liver, and then ibuprofen destroys your kidneys. So I don't know. Yeah, acetaminophen raises the risk of a lot of issues. Liver, yeah. Acetaminophen is your liver, and then ibuprofen is your kidneys. Yeah. Your liver doesn't need any help. While not a cure, HHS said the drug may lead to speech improvements for children with autism. The FDA will be updating the label on acetaminophen to relay the risk of pregnancy and will be sending out a letter to all doctors with the warning. One of your nephews is severely autistic. He may never be able to live independently. Brothers fully suppressed the rage about it, and his wife is a saint. Poor kid. Oh. Takes about 4,000 milligrams of each per day. I actually read that anything more than 3,000 milligrams of acetaminophen was like bad for extended use. Like, because I know people that take like, let's say Vicodin or like Yeah, or Vicodin, or like what is it called? Any of those pills that have acetaminophen in them. That's why they got Norco that has less acetaminophen, so that they don't take too much. His mostly profoundly speech impaired son with autism currently earns $30,000 a month working for Microsoft as a coder. Your ex-mother-in-law said her doctor told her to drink margaritas to induce later. Well, I guess that explains. I guess that explains why they. All Democrat mothers take acetaminophen during their birth, hence the mentally ill. I keep hearing a door or something. Take 1,000 milligrams per day, but never plan on being pregnant, so not something you need to worry about. Agency will also notify physicians against use of acetaminophen effective immediately. Kenvue, the manufacturer of Tylenol, disputed the president's announcement. Never use cloth or cool water to lower a fever? Really? Don't they sometimes put people in an ice bath if they got a really high fever to lower their body temperature? Or am I thinking of something else? The facts are that over a decade of rigorous research endorsed by leading medical professionals and global health regulators confirms there's no credible evidence linking acetaminophen to autism. Oh, well. See, no credible evidence. Oh. Trump called the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary and some sub-agencies to look at the cause of autism. And autism rates have risen 400% since 2000. Wow. Makes you shiver, which makes the fever increase. Oh, that's for really high fevers, 105 and up. The White House cited data from studies showing there's a consistent association between acetaminophen and pregnancy and autism. Researchers at Johns Hopkins and a Boston Birth Cohort, a nurses' health study with Yale, Columbia, and Harvard. Oh, well, they could have got some better schools than Yale, Columbia, and Harvard. They could have went with like Joe's school or Ted's school down the street. Going with those crappy schools, no wonder that they don't believe it. On Monday, the National Institutes of Health announced the launch of Autism Data Science Initiative, a $50 million research effort that will draw on 13 projects and analyze data on autism, including potential causes like diet, air pollutants, and psychological stress. Our Autism Data Science Initiative will unite powerful data sets it's never been used before. You know what they need to do? They need to get some of these people with autism and have them weaponize the autism to figure out what's causing the autism. Could be microplastics, yeah, could be many things, but that's would be a great way to utilize autism to try to figure out what's causing the autism. Why the focus on brand name and not acetaminophen? Yeah, they should have said acetaminophen, yeah. You don't know? Your mom took Tylenol and you turned out so-so? I mean, you got to remember, too, like, I don't know. I know my mom smoked the entire time she was pregnant with me. Like, in the hospital, when she was giving birth, she was smoking. Yeah, Alex Jones was right about the water and the frogs. Yeah. HHS also released a statement with the caveat that a causal relationship has not been established. It's important to note, while an association between acetaminophen and neurological conditions has been described in many studies, a causal relationship has not been established, and there are contrary studies in the scientific literature. Trump also encouraged parents to spread out the time period of which their child takes all vaccines on the federal schedule, while noting he's not a doctor. I'm just giving my opinion. So Trump goes, acetaminophen, acetaminophen, fucking Tylenol. He also, yeah. You have a little child, a fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. So ideally, a woman won't take Tylenol. None of the vaccines would be good instead of one visit where they pump your baby, you load it up with stuff to wait a period maybe 4 or 5 times. Ugh. Trump should have let someone else give this speech. Oh, he was tired from solving the Armenia-Cambodia conflict. Give him a little break. Okay. I'll cut him some slack. Trump specifically said hepatitis B vaccine should not be administered to children until they're 12 and that the vaccine should be spread out. The president also pointed to the Amish population having lower rates of autism and chronic disease, something he attributed potentially to the lower use of vaccines and painkillers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. This says, Trump tells pregnant women not to take Tylenol except for high fevers or headaches. Well, what were they taking it for? If not for high fevers and headaches. Yeah, Amish also don't go to diagnosticians, so who really knows? Well, I always told you you're not supposed to take aspirin, or children weren't supposed to take aspirin. You're supposed to be worried about aspirin because you don't know about Reye's syndrome. Yeah, hepatitis B is insane for babies since it comes from drug use with a hep B sex with a hep B person. Yeah, so they should just test the mother, and if the mother has hepatitis, then give it. But if instead of just giving the vaccine to everybody. Mm-hmm. Well, I know years ago it used to be aspirin was always used. They used to have the gum. I remember when I was a kid, they had it called Asper gum. It was a gum that had aspirin in it that you would get to chew on, if you were a child, and that would make you. But then there was like a scare of Rye disease or Rye syndrome or something, and that's when they started pushing Tylenol and other stuff. So you take a very low dose or. Well, I mean, as you get now, they're telling everybody to take basically when you get older to take a low dose of aspirin every day. It's supposed to help your heart or something. I don't know. Who knows if it works or not? All right, breaking news. It's official, folks. President Trump has signed an executive order declaring Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Finally, start arresting those who are bankrolling them for funding terrorism, and Antifa will dissolve. Your grandma grandma just used to put anisette in your hot chocolate when you were sick. That's the greatest grandma ever. Mm-hmm. Antifa's decentralized chaos meets centralized accountability. Trump's executive order with H.R. 1212, the Countering Online Radicalization and Terrorism Act, which mandates DHS to track foreign linked messaging apps funding extremism. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nani was a legend. Yeah. Antifa's use of encrypted platforms like Telegram for radicalization proves the threat. Now follow the money, cut off the foreign funding streams, prosecute domestic enablers, and watch this lawless ideology crumble. No more games. Sunlight kills rot. That's right. Wahoo! It doesn't thin the blood. It makes your platelets so they won't stick together. Yeah, nobody wants sticky platelets. You ever get a plate that's sticky and you're like, oh, what's this? I got to get a clean plate. So you don't want sticky plates. I'm just closing some tabs. Give me a second here. Mm-hmm. Breaking news. Trump has designated Antifa a terrorist organization. Yes, we're going to read this order. Mm-hmm. Oh, aspirin is now proven to cause strokes and heart attacks. Oh, great. Oh, great. That's just great. That's just great. Yeah. Says, we will dismantle Antifa. President Trump just signed the executive order officially designating Antifa a domestic terror. I wouldn't have said domestic. I would have just said terror. Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on. Well, this is crazy. I'm going to do this instead. Presidential actions designating Antifa. They shouldn't have said domestic. Should have been foreign terrorist organization. Foreign. They get foreign funding. They're started from Germany, or actually they started in Italy and then went to Germany and then yeah. Antifa as a terrorist threat. Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise that explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and our system of law. It uses illegal means to organize and execute a campaign of violence and terrorism nationwide to accomplish these goals. Yeah, I saw another country did it to Antifa too. Yeah, I think it was the Netherlands or something. I think. This campaign involves coordinated efforts to obstruct law enforcement federal laws through armed standoffs, organized riots, assaults on immigration, custom enforcement, routinely doxing, and threats against public figures and activists. Antifa recruits, trains, and radicalizes young Americans to engage in this violence and suppression of political activity. Then employs elaborate means and mechanisms to shield the identities of its operatives, conceal its funding sources and operations in an effort to frustrate law enforcement and recruit additional members. Individuals associated with and acting on behalf of Antifa further coordinate with other organizations and entities for the purpose of spreading, fomenting, and advancing political violence and suppressing lawful political speech. This organized efforts designed to achieve political objectives by coercion and intimidation is domestic terrorism. I would just say is terrorism. Is terrorism. Designation as a terror organization. Because of the aforementioned pattern of political violence, we're hereby designating Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. The ACLU will be all this over. Yeah, see, the ACLU stands for Antifa Civil Liberties Union. So yeah, so he declared it, and then we got this, and Trump signs executive order designating Antifa terrorist organization.
Saying that Charlie brought you and Elon back together. Is that true?
Well, President Trump signed executive order designated them a shadowy left-wing group known as Antifa as domestic terror. The order comes as Trump teased slapping a terror label on radical anti-fascist group last week. No. I hereby designate them. Yeah. All relevant executive departments and agencies shall utilize all applicable authorities to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations, including those involving terrorist acts conducted by Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa, and for which Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa provided material support, including necessary investigatory and prosecutorial actions against those who fund such operations. Last count, there was 5 countries declaring them terrorists. Also now it's the same countries recognize Palestine as a state. Palestine is demanding reparations from them, like England. Palestine wants reparations from England. Go figure. Here's the post-millennial. It says, President Trump signs order designating Antifa terrorist operation. I guess that's it on that, huh? Antifa designated as domestic terror group as White House declares war on radical leftist groups. So yeah, we saw it says they're a threat and they're terrorists. Yeah, we got far left activist streamer Hassan Piker is a member of Antifa who's related to Chunk Yogurt of the Young Turks. He has shown his loyalty to domestic terrorists and involved in the killing of Charlie Kirk. We need the Department of Justice to launch an investigation into Hassan Piker and indict him and put him in prison for being a mouthpiece for Antifa. Oh, is this really a thing here?
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
Left wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. Kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude. Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them.
In the moment that you grab the gun, like Tylenol says, you're no longer oppressed. You're now free. How do we teach that in the class? To tell them about violence as a revolutionary tool, as sometimes a revolutionary essential.
Fuck Charlie Kirk! Fuck Charlie Kirk! Racist bastard! Racist bastard! Piss on your ashes. Spit on your grave. I'll never be a slave.
His wife deserves to go too. Y'all keep on talking about his wife and kids. They need to go too because they're carrying on that mentality and that lineage. Like, get rid of the whole family. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why did you guys stop with him?
Why not just wipe out the whole bloodline? Wipe it out.
One down, couple more to go.
You know where the next stop is, right? You know where the next stop is, right?
Don't stop with him. Don't let him be the end dog. Get rid of them all.
The entire world would be better off if these people were permanently removed, which is why I don't give a fuck about anybody that winds up at any of these rallies and gets shot or whatever the fuck.
There will come a day in the not so distant future where MAGA Republicans or former MAGA Republicans will not be able to live in peace in this country anymore.
Need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
You're either going to have to leave this country or completely hide any evidence that you ever supported Donald Trump.
Oh, could you imagine watching Nunes's eyes pop out of his fucking head? Nothing would make me happier. Oh my God, I would fucking jerk off. So I would never need to browse porn again. That worthless, subhuman fucking piece of shit deserves to die.
Protesting isn't enough anymore. We need to disrupt the system.
It's also going to be impossible for you to do anything in peace.
And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know if I'm actually brave enough to do what would need to be done. But we've reached that point, a turning point, if you will.
I'll make you famous.
This is a little piece of art, a really nice memento. And when you reduce Wordle, a heart of every info world.
That's a pretty big ad for you there, Alex. What are you doing there? Jackson Hinkle, ACP, also harbors Antifa members. Here's the ACP member Kyle Pattis participating in Antifa action in Virginia, circa 2017. Hinkle and should be investigated and should be their extended networks, especially since they're allegedly taking money from sanctioned Russian oligarchs and government officials. Oh, what do you know? So there's this people, all these Antifa people. Oh, Kyle Pattis, yeah. Okay. There he is. Okay. Oh, the whole way to keep the right in check is ensure they can never unite in any meaningful capacity, keep them in embryonic stage. Kaz, that's Hassan Piker, isn't it? And all these people having these conversations. Wow. If this Chuck Todd panics over Trump's designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization. I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is. There is no group. These people are retarded. There's no group. Why is there no group? Because they tell you that they have members, they have memberships that you have to prove. They do background checks on the people to become members. And if Trump decides to say, you George Soros, are part of this group that I'm designating, you're like, no, I'm not. It doesn't matter. Are these people retarded?
It's going to be this executive order where they're going to try to create a new classification for anybody on the left who opposes Trump as somehow a member of Antifa and a terrorist.
Yes.
Like this is coming. And I don't think we are fully now. I don't think there's any the problem. Like I don't even know what Antifa is. I know what the definition of Antifa is, and
I know what the word means, but it's not
correct.
a group.
There is no group.
Oh, it's not a group,
and,
huh?
And
so,
okay. But what's dangerous is that by designating it, who's going to define who the group is? And if the Trump administration decides to say,
I'll define the group for you. Any asshole out there in black bloc with their face covered doing all the shit in Portland, Chicago, any of these cities, these communists, any of them, that they're Antifa. You might be Antifa too if you put on a black mask, go out there and do this, or if you're giving them money. Have you been donating to Rose City Antifa? You know, the group that raises money, but you're saying they're not a group? Huh. Yeah, they don't know what a woman is either. Yeah, they don't. It's ridiculous.
You, George Soros, are a part of this group
yes,
that
George Soros is.
Like, no, I'm not. And it doesn't matter.
Oh, wow.
Like they're going to then use that as some sort of of potential opening. And I think that's what's so extraordinarily dangerous about these designations. Like what he did with, look, he's sort of testing the theory of this case with what he's doing with Venezuela and sort of designating this sort of, well, they're narco terrorists.
Narco-terrorist
and
state.
somehow it allows, by the way, he's using the AUMF as,
of course,
as their legal cover on this, which of course is just
20 odd years old.
So far removed from what the AMUF was meant to be.
Yeah, look at Retired Murray says, strange how they can identify all MAGA members but can't identify Antifa. It's weird, right? Because isn't MAGA just an idea? MAGA's just an idea, make America great again. You target MAGA people, like Biden did. Oh, ultra MAGA. Oh, you know. Sorry, kind of late. Was outside page to get a minute recharge from the retardation today. There's a lot of retardation. A lot of retardation. A lot of retardation. A lot of retardation. The you know, like you can ask the Minnesota AG if you want to know what Antifa is. Here's their handbook. They've got a handbook. So that they follow and all the rules. So basically, anybody who owns this book, I would say, is Antifa. If you own the book, there you go. How do you like them apples? All we are saying is give peace a chance. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Happy Rosh Hashanah, by the way, not related. Here we go. Happening now. A small group of protesters outside the University of Minnesota is taunting a line of attendees waiting for Turning Point USA's first tour stop since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The organization rebranded its American Comeback Tour as This is the Turning Point Tour to honor Charlie Kirk. Tour's first stop is the University of Minnesota, featuring conservative commentator, author, and Daily Wire host Michael Knowles. There's no Knowles like good Knowles. Oh, here, look at. Oh, look at. See, they're wearing black with black masks. Yep, these are Antifa right here. Trantifa, Antifa. Oh, that's just insane. You got trans protesters at Turning Point's Minnesota Center being drowned out by students chanting USA, USA. The left is rapidly using America's youth.
USA! USA! USA!
Wait a minute, what? What do you mean? Am I offensive? I'm not sorry. I didn't think you were offensive. What, did somebody say something? What's going on? Take out of the schools, this is what you get? Yeah, that's what happened, you know. I agree. You watch Michael Knowles there. He's not Charlie, but it was good. Oh, I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out. We got this. We got these ABC News reporters' questions blows up in her face after claiming there's no evidence Letitia James abused her power to go after Trump. Selena Wang says Trump handpicked attorney general could not find any evidence that she committed a crime. Yes, they did. They have the evidence. So is the president saying here he just wants political enemies? Love it. Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. What Letitia James' campaign slogan, it was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which, of course, he did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. These people in the White House with these, like this one, this is some CCP, China. Go back to China.
James was extensively investigated for 5 months, and President Trump's handpicked Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime, he just wants his political enemies to be charged?
Well, let me just walk you through Letitia James. Letitia James completely
abused her oath of office. Letitia James was actively and openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia James's campaign slogan? It was prosecute Donald Trump. She was saying she was going to prosecute Donald Trump before she even knew if Donald Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. She actively campaigned on that. She also led the witch hunt, the financial fraud investigation against President Trump and the Trump Organization, and an appeals court tossed that case out, a $500 million civil fraud penalty in August, which was another win for the president and exonerated him.
Another win for the
of this
Joe.
witch hunt and show that this is an individual who is corrupt and abused her oath of office. And we also have evidence of her mortgage fraud. An April report from a white-collar fraud investigator found that there was documented evidence that James engaged in a consistent pattern of financial and property disclosures that raise serious legal questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James? In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche top DOJ leadership.
Because it is cut and dry. She committed mortgage fraud. There is no doubt about it. This lady doesn't know what she's talking about. It's on paper. She's done. It's mortgage fraud.
Who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she did. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This said the press secretary just ended this reporter's career trying to gaslight her.
President on exactly what that announcement entails.
On a different topic, going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend regarding the DOJ and his seeming frustration that they hadn't.
No, the DOJ never recommended not charging her. That's
I want to
bullshit.
point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponize the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going to tolerate gaslighting from anyone in the media or from anyone on the other side who is trying to say that it's the president who is weaponizing the DOJ. It was Joe Biden and his attorney general who weaponized the DOJ. Joe Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people like Adam Schiff and like James Comey and like Letitia James, who the president is rightfully frustrated. He wants accountability for these corrupt fraudsters who abused their power, who abused their oath of office to target the former president and then candidate for the highest office in the land. And I think the president is reaffirmed in those frustrations and his hope for accountability by the millions and millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability. And the president has not been shy about this, Gabe. In fact, when he traveled to the Department of Justice earlier this year, all of you were there to cover it. He said, quote, "I demand a full and complete accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people gave a mandate to investigate and root the corruption out of our system." And that's what the president wants to see done.
Carolyn.
Ed. On the autism issue again, there are reams of scientific
data. Performers at Riot Fest in Chicago, Illinois simulated a bloody disemboweling of President Trump on stage while people cheered. This is incitement. We know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, this is guar, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is guar. They're going to do what they're going to do. Here we go. So we got White House correspondent, the Teen Report USA's White House correspondent asks Karen Levitt what steps our administration is taking to hold perpetrators of political violence accountable. Let's see.
I have 3 questions, if I may, on the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk. Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to be a trend, especially after what we saw in the Annunciation Church shooting, Catholic Church shooting. Additionally, Stephen Miller recently commented on the rise in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist movement growing in this country. But the president is designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. I'm wondering, what is the approach to holding these people accountable, just to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward? Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on, because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore. Not only, as you mentioned, were the bullet casings subscribed with Antifa mottos, if you will, in the heinous assassination of Charlie, but there have also been more examples than I could read off for you here in this briefing room today of violence from Antifa. I will just read a few. In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in Portland, which for weeks prior had been under siege from the local Antifa terror cell. In February 2024, a transgender Antifa terrorist detonated an explosive device outside of the office of the Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members linked to abortionist group Jane's Revenge firebombed pro-life facilities and vandalized churches. In January 2022, a suspected Antifa member was arrested for bringing a pipe bomb to a pro-Trump event. In January 2021, an Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety and our national security, but this administration knows that it is. That's why the president will be signing this order. And we will also be, most importantly, looking at who is funding Antifa and who is funding these other violent left-wing groups that we've seen perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Wow. Oh, that's pretty interesting stuff, isn't it? You know. You think Bonnie wants to make sure she can get a conviction? No, it was some other guy that was like doing some weird stuff, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So we got this. What's going on right now? This crowd of anti-Trump protesters yelling 8647 outside the White House, hoisting the Antifa flag. Oh, this is from July 4th. What the hell? Why did you post this today, dude?
How's it going, everyone? Anti-Trump protesters with the Antifa flag waving in the march are currently marching to the White House to protest President Trump's signing of the big, beautiful bill.
I don't know. I saw this guy posted this. I didn't read it. I saw the video and stuff, and I looked at it. I just realized that this is a damn a repost thing. He's trying to capitalize on the stuff about Antifa. I don't like that. This young patriot just triggered a gay left-wing protester outside the TPUSA University of Minnesota event, mocking his ridiculous chant. Let's see.
Antifa has to go! Hey, hey! Oh, she gonna just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Why is he calling them Jews? Why is he saying that? That's pretty anti-Semitic, man, to say that stuff. That's some messed up stuff, man. Oof. Yeah, red flag represents communism. Black flag represents anarchy. Yeah. Word is one of the grand juries is due to make a decision soon on the charges. They recessed today till a decision is made. And what I heard on Johnson's show. Yeah, they're brown shirts, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Then this news, I don't know if you guys saw this today. It says the man accused of trying to kill Trump won't testify. So they rested their case without testifying.
We want to get you down to some new developments just in from the trial of Ryan Ruth. He is the man accused of planning to assassinate then candidate Trump on his Florida golf course last year. We are now learning the prosecution will not call a rebuttal witness, and both sides have now formally rested. This after we also learned Ruth will not testify in his defense. Closing arguments are scheduled for tomorrow, and News Nation's Brooke Schaefer was in the courtroom. She now joins us from outside the courthouse. Brooke, what is the latest here?
Yeah, Nicole, as you mentioned, both sides now formally rested in this case. The defense rested a couple of hours ago after Ryan Ruth called his 3 witnesses to the stand. The first witness on the stand today was a gun expert. Then we also heard from 2 character witnesses, a friend and a former coworker of Ryan Ruth's, as he tried to present his defense to this jury. But after days of witness testimony from both sides, Nicole, as you said, the person we didn't hear from directly was Ryan Ruth. He decided to not call himself to the stand and testify in his own defense. Ruth's daughter spoke to us outside the courthouse a few moments ago. She said she's not surprised her dad decided not to testify. She called her dad's trial rigged.
I mean, after seeing how rigged it is, why would he put himself in that position? You know, that would be stupid. He's the best man I've ever known, and he's done everything every day of his life to help anybody and everybody in his community and his children, his friends, his coworkers, his employees, everybody. If anybody has a heart in the jury, then they'll see that my father doesn't deserve it.
What? This lady nuts?
Through his witnesses, as part of his defense, Ryan Ruth here really tried to maintain that what he is accused of just isn't in his character. He says that he's a peaceful guy who wouldn't try to, or plan to rather, assassinate anyone. As of right now, the judge going over some jury instructions before sending the jury home for the day.
Didn't this guy sit? What the hell, man?
All right, so closing arguments for tomorrow. What more do we know about how that will play out and kind of what happens next?
Yeah, well, as you said, this is happening tomorrow. We weren't sure if they would pick up closing arguments today because it's a bit of a shorter day in court today. But the judge said, regardless of that, we will have those closing arguments tomorrow. From what we've heard, each side will get an hour.
So the man accused of Fort Pierce, Florida, yeah, he's done. The man accused of trying to kill then candidate Trump at his Florida golf course rested his case. Ruth rested his case before lunch. After questioning 3 witnesses for 3 hours in the morning, U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon asked if Ruth wanted to testify himself, and he said no. Under questioning from Ruth on Monday, firearms expert Michael McClay testified that Ruth would have been able to have a view of the 6th green on a golf course where he was hiding in the bushes. McClay testified that he had tested Ruth's firearm for the trial, and he was permitted to fire 2 shots as part of the test. However, McClay said that the second shot attempt jammed during the test, suggesting Ruth would have been unable to get off multiple shots. Weather is tuning radio signals. Oh, cool. Zelensky's fake wife is a time, though. Got some stuff going on. No chat. Poland's getting a little fired up. What's going on? Poland's about to shoot down Russian jets. What? What's going on? What? Hold on, let me look. Oof. Oh. Let me look. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything. I don't see anything about anything. NATO countries have accused Russia of violating airspace of alliance members Estonia, Poland, and Romania. Russia rejected claims and accused European leveraging based accusations. That's from Al Jazeera. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, back to this. Russia's drone rattling. Poland is saber rattling. Okay. McClay also testified that a scope found at the scene had been mounted on the firearm by tape and glue, which likely would have made it ineffective. Seasoned prosecutors for the Southern District. So the guy, just because the guy was shitty at the job, doesn't mean that. I mean, prosecutors have said Ruth spent weeks plotting to kill Trump before aiming the rifle through the shrubbery. Ruth has pleaded not guilty. He told District Judge Eileen Cannon that he only needs a half a day to prevent his defense. He indicated he plans to call a firearms expert and 2-character witness. He hasn't said whether he plans to testify himself. He signed off on Ruth's request to represent himself following 2 hearings. But they already arrested, so what? Oh yeah, that Zen guy held on obstructions. Yeah, Trump needs to go away. Would-be assassin texted. Supreme Court has held that criminal defendants have a right to represent themselves. Cannon said the attorney can be prepared to deliver the closing arguments, giving each side 1 hour. Recounting alleged attack, Secret Service agent testified that he spotted Ruth before Trump came into view. Ruth aimed his rifle at the agent, who opened fire, causing Ruth to drop his weapon and flee. Law enforcement obtained help of a witness who testified he saw a person fleeing the area after hearing gunshots. Witness was then flown in a police helicopter to a nearby interstate where Ruth was arrested. Witness said he confirmed it was a person he had seen. 9 weeks later, Trump had survived an attempt on his life while campaigning in Pennsylvania. Gunman had fired 8 shots, 1 bullet grazing Trump's ear. That guy got off 8 shots in Butler? 8 shots? Really? I didn't know that before. He was a North Carolina construction worker who in recent years had moved to Hawaii. A self-styled mercenary leader, he spoke out to anyone who would listen about his dangerous, sometimes violent plans to insert himself into conflicts around the world. This guy has pictures of himself taken with people in the Biden administration and people in. He's in a video for the Azov battalion for Ukraine. Hey, low watermark, nice to see you, buddy. So glad you stopped by. So in the early days of the war, he tried to recruit soldiers from Afghanistan, Moldova, and Taiwan to fight the Russians. He was arrested in 2002 for eluding a traffic stop and barricading himself from officers with a fully automatic machine gun and a weapon of mass destruction, which turned out to be an explosive with a 10-inch fuse. He searched a warehouse owned by Ruth and found more than 100 stolen items, from power tools, building supplies, kayaks, spa tubs. Judges gave Ruth probation or suspended sentence. This is a federal charge. Ruth also pleaded not guilty to state charges of terrorism and attempted murder. AP has the same story. A man accused of trying to assassinate Trump rests his case without testifying.
The prosecution rested their case this afternoon. Their final witness was a supervisory special agent with the FBI. And, she just kind of went over the 6 months leading up to the alleged assassination attempt and used cell phone data and license plate readers and surveillance video to kind of track Ryan Ruth's movements and show what he was doing before his arrest. After they rested their case, Ruth made a motion for acquittal directly to the judge, so the jury wasn't present for that. And that's where he basically made his argument that he should be acquitted on 4 of the 5 charges that he's facing. For the main charge, the attempted assassination charge, his argument is that, the government proved that someone was outside the golf course with a gun, but the gun never went off, and the prosecutors didn't prove that he was actually attempting to assassinate anyone. The prosecutors obviously don't agree with that. Their position is that Mr. Ruth took multiple steps toward an assassination attempt, including pointing a loaded gun with a safety off through the golf course fence. So now that the prosecutors have finished their case, Ruth, who's
Yeah, they don't want to highlight his ties to Fort Bragg. Yeah,
make
definitely
his
not.
case. He has 3 witnesses.
Hey,
who are
Leslie Ann, how
supposed
you
to
doing?
Testify on Monday, and then the judge is expecting closing arguments Tuesday morning. She's giving each side an hour and 45 minutes, and after that, the case should go to the jury, and anyone can guess how long it'll take them to reach a verdict. The prosecution rested their case this afternoon. Their final witness.
Okay. That's it. Man on trial for trying to assassinate Trump. Yeah. And so that's that. So, we've been going at 2.5 hours. We did not hit the goal. So, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody, and we'll try again tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. Come on back for Jim to tell you the news.